Greetings and salutations, my wonderful people. It's Bloody Jack from the Bloody Jack channel, and today we're gonna take a little look at David Fincher's The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
This is your path to be. We're all here just for all the fun. Now you're jamming hard, yeah. Hype it up all once again. Try to hype it up. Now you're jamming hard, yeah. Hype it up all once again. Try to hype it up.
So, for a little obvious background, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is a 2011 psychological crime thriller film based on the 2005 Swedish novel written by Stieg Larsson. But a little background on the whole series. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, or Man som hatar kvinnor, translated roughly to Men Who Hate Women, was written by crime journalist Stieg Larsson, and it was the first part of the Millennium series, which consists currently of 6 books, being in series order: The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Girl Who Played with Fire, The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest, The Girl in the Spider's Web, The Girl Who Takes an Eye for an Eye, and The Girl Who Lived Twice. With currently 6 books in the series, all written today. Originally, Stieg Larsson wanted to make 10 books in the series, but unfortunately passed away in 2003 because of a heart attack due to his diet consisting mainly of junk food and coffee. So what Wikipedia says. And because of that, he only finished the first 3 books in the series, and was halfway through the 4th one and started draft ideas on the 5th. So, then, it was only published as the Millennium Trilogy. But in 2014/2015, it was picked up by David Lagerkrantz, who wrote the most recent 3 books, continuing Stieg's original series. The books have managed to get so popular that they managed to win a bunch of awards, getting included into Britain's top list of 100 best books of the 21st century, and the Swedish Crime Novel Award of the Year. And also the first 3 books managed to get adapted into a TV miniseries starring Noomi Rapace, which aired between 2008 and 2010, which aired on TV in Sweden and Germany, but then it got an English dub in 2010, which I have on DVD somewhere in my abattoir of movies, because there's both a theatrical version and an extended edition of the first 3. But anyway, in 2011, David Fincher, famous for movies like Fight Club, Seven, and Gone Girl, directed his adaptation of the first novel. And then in 2018, another director, Fede Alvarez, known for Don't Breathe and the Evil Dead remake, directed The Girl in the Spider's Web. And fun little fact, the first book is actually one of my favourite books of all time. So, the standard plot behind The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. In Stockholm, a disgraced journalist by the name of Mikael Blomkvist is recovering from the legal and professional fallout of a libel suit brought against him by businessman Hans-Erik Wennerström, staggering Blomkvist's relationship with his business partner and married lover Erika Berger. Lisbeth Salander, a young, brilliant and antisocial investigator and hacker, complies an extensive background check on Blomkvist for the wealthy Henrik Vanger, who offers Blomkvist evidence against Wennerstrom in exchange for an unusual task to investigate the 40-year-old disappearance and presumed murder of Henrik's grandniece, Harriet. Blomkvist agrees and moves into a cottage on the Vanger family estate on Hedestad Island. So that's just the standard plot. We can get right into the story. If you haven't seen The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, turn off this video and start watching it, because there's going to be a lot of spoilers in this, but not too spoilery because this is a 2.5 hour movie. So, let's dig right into it. So the movie starts off with honestly one of my favourite opening credit sequences since Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, with a beautiful stylish CG animation with an awesome cover of the Immigrant Song. Just listen to the soundtrack alone with those visuals, they literally go hand in hand. The movie actually starts off with James Bond himself, Daniel Craig, getting bombarded by journalists. And somewhere else in Stockholm we're introduced to my favourite character in the books, Lisbeth Salander, who gives a rundown on her opinion on Blomkvist, which was a part of her assignment to Dirch Frode. Later on, Mikael is at a party and gets told by Frode that Vanger wants to speak to him at his mansion. Meanwhile, in Hedestad, Blomkvist is told by Vanger the next day that his grandniece Harriet Vanger has mysteriously disappeared for 40 years and wanted to take his mind off the whole Wennerstrom case. Blomkvist, obviously being the man that he is, decides to take up the mystery. I mean, who wouldn't? After you get bombarded by loads of stories, like people twisting your words in the media. I mean, it is the media after all, nothing they say is really true. Back in Stockholm, Lisbeth decides to visit her guardian, but finds him unconscious on the floor because of a stroke. Because of this, Lisbeth has to be put under the guardianship of Niels Björman, who's actually kind of like a fusion between Del Toro, Peter Jackson, and Rolf Harris, and Victor Salva. So yeah, pretty fucking creepy. Not only that, mainly because I can't show most of this movie because YouTube's content guidelines, all I'm going to say, I want to do a little bit of a quote from Alex in A Clockwork Orange, where he talks about Billy Boy and his droogs are having a little bit of the old in out, in out. But anyway, so Lisbeth gets mugged by some random dickhead and she proper punts the twat right in the face on an escalator. And Lisbeth gets through a couple of really hard to watch scenes actually. Like out of the whole movie, I've watched both versions of the Swedish version and the Fincher version. And I gotta say, in the Fincher version, it's more hard to watch, like both scenes. But Lisbeth does take revenge quite seriously, and it's honestly the best scene in the whole movie. So yeah, Björman gets what he deserves, which is actually a great moment. He gets tasered in the neck, and then Lisbeth shows him the footage of a couple scenes before and what he did to her. And in return, she rams a giant silver dildo up his ass and roughly tattoos on his stomach/abdomen, which is a really brutal scene, and it's even more brutal in the book. Later on in the movie, because I know I'm skipping a lot of the movie here, because this is going to be a very short and brief review, Lisbeth and Mikael end up actually meeting, and he asks her to help him make sense of the parts that he can't get his head around. And it's actually at this point where the movie's plot actually does get moving even further. Lisbeth and Mikael at one point do sleep together, which is a major plot point in the second and third book when it connects. Because Lisbeth has fallen in love slightly with Mikhail. Because everyone knows apparently that Daniel Craig is unresistible to some women, Mikhail goes to Martin Vanger's house, who is Harriet's brother, and finds his sex/torture dungeon. Not dungeon, chamber. That's kind of a dungeon if you actually look at the layout. Or you can probably combine it with the room from the first Saw movie with the Taco Bell bathroom, where he's admitted that he's been raping and torturing women for many years, and not only it was his father's favourite hobby, but it became his as well. And not only that, but he says to him and his father that have raped and abused Harriet. Martin then pulls a plastic bag over Mikhail's head and puts a noose over his neck, trying to hang him. But luckily Lisbeth comes in and swings a golf club right into Martin's jaw. Lisbeth then frees Mikhail and chases Martin, but Martin loses control of his car at one point and crashes it, and it also fucking explodes into a propane tank, burning him alive. I can only imagine people like Hank Hill will never look at that scene ever again. So then Mikhail and Lisbeth discover that Harriet is not only not dead, but she's also living in London, right in the centre of London, using the name of her cousin Anita Vanger, because only the real Anita is dead, she died of cancer years earlier, but no one in the Vanger family actually knew. And also the fact that Anita and Harriet have always been mistaken for twins by some people because they both look strikingly similar. Months pass suddenly, and then it's Christmas, well, near Christmas even. Harriet meets Henrik, and they're a reunited family once again. We found out that Wennerstrom is dead because he's been doing really dodgy shit with the mafia, with the international mafia. So yeah. And also, Lisbeth got Mikhail a present, which is a leather jacket, and a really good leather jacket, don't mind that. But it leads to the most heartbreaking, this was heartbreaking for me in both the movie and in the book, which is, honestly, it's just heart-wrenching. So yeah, Lisbeth wants to go and meet up with Mikhail, but she finds that he's still sleeping with his business partner Erica. So Lisbeth, feeling heartbroken, throws Mikhail's present away into the nearest dumpster, and the movie just ends. I'm not even kidding. Like, it just turns to black and the credits just start rolling. So, that was the whole story, well, a very shortened version of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. So, let's move on to talking about the characters. Honestly, I think I should only really talk slightly about the two main characters, because they're actually somewhat worth talking about, and there's a lot of characters in the movie for me to actually try and remember, and I had to get this review out at some point before the end of the month. But they also do become the main characters throughout the whole book series. So, Mikhail Blomkvist, played by Daniel Craig, is pretty much described, like he's shown how he is described in the book, with him being tall, middle-aged, blonde male with blue eyes and very attractive for his age. And Daniel Craig, despite not having a Swedish accent, which is pretty much how I would picture it, he still does give a solid performance because, you know, it's Daniel Craig. Then we have Lisbeth Salander, played by Rooney Mara, and just like in the Swedish version of the movies, she is taking exactly straight from the books, right down to her description of her tattoos and her piercings, her height, how unnaturally slim she is. And Rooney Mara's performance pulls it off just as good as Noomi Rapace. And it was so good that she was even nominated an Academy Award as her role of Salander in 2011. So that's all the characters, now it's time to get down to the final verdict. David Fincher's The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo may not take exactly everything from the book, like how They Find Harriet, only in the Swedish version, actually got right, but it is still a good movie, even if certain scenes do tend to drag out for a little too long. Still make up for it in the payoff that happens later. Would I recommend this version of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo? Yes and no. If you like a good crime thriller and David Fincher movies, then definitely watch this version. But if you want to watch a slightly more accurate version, both this version and the extended Swedish version, if you watch them back to back, they give you a whole new perspective, and if you read the book. But I do have to give David Fincher credit, because he did manage to adapt a 35 long chapter book into a 2.5 hour long movie, but overall it is a good watch, and I do highly recommend all three versions of the movie should be watched. So those were my thoughts on The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.